You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/cheapgeek. So it begins again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. This is episode number 140.
Is the Amazon Rainforest on fire? Area 51 state of emergency? Carolina Paracon's Afterlife Paranormal interview? And tales of little people on the reservation?
Yes.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it begins again. Welcome back to the podcast. If it's your very first time tuning into the podcast, we very much appreciate having you here. It should be a good time for all involved. It'll be a good time for us, so hopefully you'll enjoy it. We like to talk about weird stuff and stuff like that. So what is the podcast exactly about?
CreepGeeks Podcast is an offbeat news podcast that takes a lighthearted approach to the paranormal, cryptid, strange, the silly, and trending tech topics circulating the web. Broadcasting paranormal news and fun stories from our underground bunker in the mountains of western North Carolina.
Yeah. So here we are again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. If you're your very first time tuning in, thank you very much for being here. If you're a long-time listener, we really appreciate having you here. Podcast is growing through support from wonderful, happy people like you. I mean, you don't have to be happy if you don't want to. I'm not really trying to put that on you, but, you know,
yeah, you
it's
could
all
be
good.
a complete curmudgeon.
Yeah, you could be a total curmudgeon if you so desire. You could do whatever you want. So anyway, this podcast, we like to talk about weird things, funny things, interesting things, and things like that. And we hope you enjoy it when you hear us talk about stuff that you probably didn't think about. See, that's the joy of doing the podcast for absolutely free. So anyway, I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And this is the CreepGeeks Podcast. In this particular episode, we have a wonderful interview with Carolina Paracon's Afterlife Paranormal group that are putting this on.
Mm-hmm.
Little Toby and Tony. Or Tony and Toby, which depends on which way you want to say it. It's okay. It's all good. And we also have some wonderful stuff that's kind of talked about with our upcoming events. We've sort of mentioned some of these things in the past with our previous episodes, but that's okay. So the way we like to do the podcast, we like to start out with a couple of different things to talk about, one of which is our interesting random factoid. But before we do that, we have to tell you all the wonderful ways that you can support and find the podcast, because evidently that's what you have to do these days. So if you want to find a podcast group on Facebook or our podcast, we have a couple different ways, actually, to find it on the podcast. I can't talk today because I'm sick. I have a summertime cold. It's
you
terrible.
need a nap instead of a podcast.
Yes.
Yes, but if you'd like to find the podcast on Facebook or social media, pretty much CreepGeeks Podcast will get you to where you need to go.
Yeah.
On Facebook specifically, our official Facebook page is CreepGeeks Podcast. And then our group, which is where you can share stories, funny memes, tips on some paranormal stuff you find interesting, that's going to be Creep Geeks Facebook group.
Yes,
Make
pretty
it easy
active
for
group.
you to find.
Yes.
Now, as far as finding the podcast itself, we are available on all major podcast platforms and now Spotify and Pandora.
Yes.
So just open
And
up
iHeartRadio and SoundCloud. And
open up your favorite podcast feed, program, app, whatever, and you should be able to find our podcast. If you
Yes.
don't, send us a message. Maybe we missed one.
Yes.
Unlikely, but we might have.
If you spell it wrong and you come up with French pancakes, that's CreepGeeks. Which is, you know, I've listened to that before. It's been pretty nice, but it's just not what we're all about. We're about weird stuff, wacky stuff, paranormal stuff.
It could be a spooky crepe.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, like raisins in it, because nobody wants those awful,
That's
awful
terrifying.
things in there.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you'd like to support the podcast, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can support by listening and doing a rating or a review, because it helps podcasts like us grow. You can also support the podcast with little or no effort on your part. Won't cost you anything at all. Kind of goes like this. When you shop on Amazon.com, if you use our affiliate link, we'll get a small percentage. Doesn't change your price at all, and it also helps us to keep the coffee flowing and gas in our Albino Rhino, our DIY adventure camper mobile investigation machine. Yeah.
Really?
Yes, it's very thirsty. Because we pack it all up with all of our unnecessary things and head out for these adventures.
Yes. Whether it's a paranormal investigation or an event like a convention.
Like a conference that we're
Yeah.
going to kind of like be talking about. Yes. And that's something that we do because not only do we talk about the weird stuff, we try to investigate it as well. We're part-time paranormal investigators and cryptid researchers. And doing this sort of thing is fun for us. We also do conferences and things like, the cool kids call them cons. Hey, you going to the
He has
con?
air quotes going on,
Yeah.
everybody, while he's saying this.
Cons, because
So.
that's what you're supposed to do. Now, when I think of cons, I think of like Khan from Star Trek, where it's a con like that. That just tore my voice to shreds. I just want you to
I'm
know.
pretty sure the cold medicine's kicking in now.
Not yet.
So.
Got the sweats. But anyway, it's all good. Got a summertime cold. Kind of reminds me of Metalocalypse when Nathan was going around and
Yeah.
things are being, people are being destroyed, literally ripped apart. And he's like, I got a cold. It's terrible. And it was just funny. I thought it was pretty funny. So, as we do with the podcast, we like to start out with two things. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. And second, we're going to talk about interesting random factoid.
Yeah.
So, the first interesting random factoid, which I thought was actually pretty funny, is that portions of the Amazon rainforest are on fire.
That's not the funny part.
No. But the funny part is those images that you're sharing, like on Facebook and stuff like that, those aren't the Amazon.
Yeah. And this actually
So.
started because Greg and I both saw a mutual friend share a post about the tragedy of the Amazon rainforest being on fire. And yes, that's horrible. But I looked at the picture and I'm like, that's not the Amazon rainforest. That's the great wildfire that hit Montana in
Yes.
like the early 2000s,
Yes.
which eventually led to this article, which is some of the most shared images of the Amazon rainforest fires are either old or not of the Amazon. And this is from CNN, who honestly was just as guilty of this a few hours ago.
Yes.
Now,
I like what they put here.
yeah.
Photos on social media are conflating the current crisis with previous fires. I didn't know conflating was a word, but evidently it is.
But
So,
they're passing the blame onto not poor reporting or journalists and media websites trying to use the most shocking image they can. They're putting the blame on social media and celebrities. Like, everything in here is about celebrities like Jaden Smith, Logan Paul, the other Leonardo DiCaprio,
Leonardo DiCappuccino.
Yeah. And then even like another actor. And yeah, they're sharing these images, but they got these images from someplace else,
Yeah.
a news agency. So the article, we're not going totally into it, but they shared the top 10 pretty much posts or photo collages of all the fires about the Amazon rainforest,
Yes.
and basically said none of these are of the current wildfire.
Yeah. One of them was a wildfire photo from 2018 in Sweden.
Yeah, and another sad
And the one in Montana was from 2000.
Yeah. And then like there's this one image, and I remember it because Shane Dawson shared it, and it was the poor little bunny rabbit from the Malibu fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 2018 Malibu fire, and they're saying it's part of the Amazon and the animals being hurt. Now, none of that's funny, none of that's cool, but fact checking is the responsibility of the media. We can't help it if these celebrities are getting these photos from some
Yeah,
sort of
here's
news.
that one photo of the monkey crying, holding
Yeah.
a smaller monkey.
Yeah.
It's like not even the Amazon. It was taken in Jabalpur, India.
So the interesting
It's like-
random factoid
okay.
for this is basically, yes, keep paying attention to the news, but you're going to have to fact check it yourself before you share it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fake news.
I mean, these celebrities had to have gotten these photos from someplace else.
Well, I'm seeing a lot of the same photos shared amongst all the celebrities. So sometimes it seems like when one says one thing, like, oh, that's cool. Let me go ahead and jump on that too.
Yeah.
You know, unless they have people, because some celebrities are so popular or famous that they actually have people that go around and do that.
Yeah.
Like, quick, fetch my Instagrammer. And this little Instagram nerd comes out of the corners with the phone and says, I need you to make me appear to be socially conscious real quick.
Actually, it's called a social engagement team.
Social engagement team.
Yeah.
You have a team of nerds ready to.
Which is actually
Engage
separate
people
from
socially.
your marketing guy.
You have a
So-
marketing nerds.
Yeah.
You know, so
So,
anyway, That's good to know.
Yeah. Be careful of those images.
So the Amazon is on fire, and that is a terrible thing, and very much should be dealt with sooner or later if they can, because sometimes things like that are just out of human control. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that's not the case. But just kind of take a look at some of those pictures. I mean, I don't know how many pine trees there are in the Amazon, but probably not that many. So, yeah.
Yeah, if it looks like it's the Rocky Mountains on fire, it's probably not the Amazon.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So there's a couple different things we need to touch on. In some of our previous episodes, we actually talked about the Storm Area 51 event. So, started out as a joke on Facebook, right? Started getting pretty big. Had some sponsors that are starting to show up, like Arby's, Little Nass. X was going to join, right?
Yeah.
Strippers were going to be there. The small town in the surrounding area is starting to kind of like spruce things up and get more merchandise in just in case all these Area 51 stormers come running in, right? So it started to turn into a thing. Then it turned into there's going to be a festival, and I can't help but think this is going to be like the Fire Fest, right? That didn't do so well. Kind of ended with some, these stranded people. But anyway, so it's gotten pretty bad. And then, of course, you had people coming out saying, don't do this. It's not a good thing. Bob Lazar said, don't come out and do this. And
the government said, don't
come out to do it. Facebook took the event offline for a while, and then it came back, and now it's a festival. And so, evidently, the Storm Area 51 event just caused the tiny county in which it's going to be held in, if it happens at all, to declare a state of emergency. Emergency.
And so, commissioners in Nevada's rural county, Lincoln County, have voted to pre-sign an emergency declaration ahead of the Storm Area 51 raid event that's so far drawn more than 2 million RSVPs on Facebook.
Yes.
And this is how small this county is. On Monday, the county board unanimously voted 4-0. So they only have 4 people on their county board anyways. That's what that seems like to me.
It seems like they were all sitting around and somebody said, "Hey, what if 2 million people really show up?"
All 4 people were sitting around and said,
"Yeah, because they probably all met at the same place, a little coffee shop or whatever, that little Ailey Inn and Rachel
little
there."
Ailey Inn, yeah.
They're like, "Hey, man, I mean, think about it like this: if you take the average numbers when it comes to these Facebook events, where 2,000 people are interested, and or 2 million people are interested, and 1 million people are going, what if 10% shows up?" That's still more than that town can handle.
Yeah, I mean, the whole county itself has 5,200 people. That's a whole county.
Wow.
And I think we live in a small county out here in North Carolina.
We have more people than that.
We have more people than that. I mean, we have like triple that. And I think we have,
We don't really know how many people are in this county. We just know it's more than what they got.
Yeah, but
outside of Area 51.
Still, I mean, they have barely 1,000 more people than my high school.
Well, their hotel has 184 rooms. They have 2 gas stations, 1 grocery store, and 1 hospital.
That's the scary part. There's only 1 hospital.
Yeah, it might not even be a big hospital.
Yeah, it's
like
probably
a
like because the first thing I thought of was like
and all their emergency medical personnel are all volunteers.
The Native American tiny clinics.
Yeah.
Like when we were driving past places in the Southwest, and they were like the size of barely a gas station. That's my idea of their hospital.
I mean, if these people show up, if a small percentage of these people show up, all their resources are going to be gone.
Yeah.
Fire, rescue, all of that sort of thing.
They probably can't even truck in enough food.
Well, I mean, they probably could, but they have to put things in place that they need to.
Yeah.
Like the small town of Rachel, where the event's supposed to happen, has 50 people. That's their population, 50.
Oh, gosh.
So that is absolutely ridiculous. And they're also trying to do an alien exposition at the Alien Research Center, which is down the road in Hyco, Nevada.
Oh, gosh.
So, I mean, if 2,000-3,000 people show up, or just say 4,000 people show up, I mean, they're expecting about 10. Mm-hmm. A hotel owner there is expecting about 10,000 people. That's still more,
How can...
I mean, yeah. So they're declaring a state of emergency because they need to get resources in place.
Yeah. And I mean,
just in case. And what's really going to be awful is if they basically get all these resources in place, declare a state of emergency, wipe out all their money, and then nobody shows up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're trying to turn it into Alien Stock, which is going to be a UFO-themed festival.
It actually starts on the 19th of September.
Yeah. Which is, kind of a good idea. I mean,
Yeah.
if this, okay, so if it turns into an alien type festival,
Mm-hmm.
and they're ready for it, it could be a big boon for the city. Yeah, so with all the attention that this is bringing to the town, they're going to be completely overrun. They have no services in Rachel, no gas, no store.
Yeah.
You have the little Alien, it's a small bar, restaurant / motel. The owner, I think, was actually trying to clear off some area for RVs and things like that. But at the end of all this, it could either be a wonderful thing to have a planned festival. You know, I mean, I could see it bringing in some money if they did a better job planning and sort of making facilities.
But even
Even
with planning and with the amount it's ramped up, like I said, if only 10% showed up. Even the small county itself doesn't even have enough gas at the gas stations.
Yep.
And the gas stations aren't even physically equipped for that. So, I mean, let's just say that county has 3 or 4 gas stations and you have thousands of people.
Yep.
That's not going to work.
So there you go. If you're going, make sure you bring plenty of glass. Bring plenty of glass and water and supplies and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's something that, I didn't realize that the person that created the whole thing, Maddie Roberts,
Yeah.
basically said that after listening to an episode of the Joe Rogan podcast, he created it as a joke on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if that was the Bob Lazar interview. Yeah.
Yes, it was. He said, and
which is funny. If he was a true alien aficionado, he would know that basically you need to do Area 52.
well, that
That's
George
really where
Knapp
you want
article
something.
that we talked about on the previous podcast
Yeah,
mentioned that. He
that's
said,
true.
he was inspired by the Bob Lazar. Yes,
Oh,
he
yeah.
understood, but it's the fact that, since these top secret bases are so prevalent and the top secret information is so prevalent, everyone knows about Area 51, so why not make the joke about that?
Yeah.
So,
I don't think he's that clever. I don't know. So, if he was smart, he would have done like a YouTube video and monetized it, and he'd have like millions. But anyway, hope it doesn't turn out to be something bad for the people involved. But if any amount of people show up, it's probably going to be.
yeah.
So, yeah, good news.
And we'll put all links for everything we talk about in the show notes to this podcast episode, so you can follow along and stay current with this Area 51 thing that just won't die.
Yes.
So,
All right, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break on the old CreepGeeks podcast, because coming up next is going to be our interview with Carolina Paracon, Toby and Tony of Afterlife Paranormal, to talk all about the conference that's going to happen in it's in South Carolina. But yeah, we had a wonderful time talking to those fine people, and we're going to go ahead and play an interview in great and agonizing detail when we come right back.
A podcast about curses, hexes, and maledictions. Cursed examines some of the most bizarre and mysterious events that have been documented throughout history. Whether it's regarding tales of voodoo, black magic, or simply a series of unfortunate events, I'll be telling you all kinds of strange tales. 3 episodes are readily available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and other popular apps. These episodes cover tales and stories from Manchac Swamp, the alleged curse of Ötzi the Iceman, and a story involving the Australian international soccer team and a scorned witch doctor. You can find out more about the show by visiting curse.com. That's C-V like voodoo, R-S-E-D.com. You can also follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Cursed Podcast. Again, that's C-V like voodoo, R-S-E-D podcast. Hope to see you around. Thanks for listening.
All right, so I'm Toby Hartford, and my wife and I, Tony, we run Afterlife Paranormal tours and events. We've been doing paranormal investigations for the last 5 years together, and between the two of us, we've been doing it for probably about 10 years or something total. We just moved down to South Carolina from Maine back last October. So we're still new to the South Carolina, venue, but we, I guess we started, like, as far as myself goes, I started out, I always wanted to see ghosts when I was a kid. I always was interested in Bigfoot and plane. It was a full apparition. And after that, I started, going out and trying to actively search for ghosts and spirits. And Tony had she started doing some stuff when she was in high school and stuff, and she'd studied Wiccan and what else?
Oh, I studied a lot of theology when I was in college, and I got interested in a lot of tarot cards and things when I was in college, and I just really got interested in occultist type things, and I've been studying a lot of that, and I like that kind of end of paranormal investigating. I think Toby and I both kind of like the history part of paranormal investigating. Also, we kind of like the all-encompassing of it all. The history. Going and investigating. And he likes the looking at video evidence and all that. So we kind of like the whole thing.
Like the whole package. Yeah.
Like the whole package, yeah.
Yeah, she does a lot of the spiritual side of it, and I do a lot of the tech side of it. But I think we both have a lot of abilities as far as being able to having our bodies react to when the spirits around, that type of stuff.
Yeah, and I've found that some of the best teams out there's usually somebody who embodies one aspect of the investigation team and someone else who does the other parts. For Greg, he's really big on the video evidence as well, and then we have someone else that we reach out to that's more towards the spiritual and divination side. And once you bring it all together, that makes that really strong team there. So.
Right.
Yeah.
We had, we've always had team members. There was about 5 of us, I guess it was in Maine when we had our group up there, we called it Maine Afterlife Research Society. There was 5 of us, and we had a decent sized group then, and then we also had where I always try to get teams to work together and everybody kind of be on the same page. So I also had probably 4 or 5 teams that used to work with us on big events or big locations that would come and everybody kind of work together, and so that was kind of cool. And
cool.
When we moved down here, it's just her and I that are doing it now, and I mean I've got a couple friends down here now that have come with us a couple times to help us out, but that's kind of the whole idea that the Carolina Paracon is trying to really network with people and get some unity amongst paranormal investigators, and hopefully it won't be. We don't want to be like a competition. For some reason in the field, everything's a competition. And that's something we don't want to be a part of. We want everybody to be able to get along and everybody to share, ideas. And that's really the focus behind our Paracon, is to try to network. We put on a couple of these up in Maine called Parafest Maine with my brother. And they were, really, really successful. And we had, a lot of great guests up there. And we moved down here in October last year. We didn't have time to really put one together last year. That's why we're doing it this year. We're looking forward to meeting all the different teams in South Carolina, North Carolina. We've got teams coming from. We actually have some teams from New England coming down, and we've got a group or 2 from Florida coming up, and we got a wide variety of people coming.
See, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because we've noticed the same thing. Because it's kind of like what we chatted about before. We came in from basically New Mexico and Southwest, and then we get here, and it seems like one of the first things we notice is that teams, whether they do paranormal or cryptid research or a combination of the two, nobody seems to really want to interact with each other.
And really, there shouldn't be such a thing as competition. It should all be collaborative. I mean, because in the end, we're all hunting for the same thing, which is the truth and evidence, or things that make you question your own beliefs. And if we're all hunting for that, why can't we all just, I hate to say it, why can't we all just get along? But why can't we all work together professionally and amicably to just make it more of a cohesive thing? Because in the end, groups competing with each other,
it doesn't say a whole lot.
It doesn't say a whole lot.
because it seems like it always turns into one thing or one group versus another group where, somebody asks for, somebody on the outside will ask for help or assistance or, hey, I've heard of these guys. And it turns into, oh, well, you don't want to talk to those guys. And it's just.
And see, we're all about, like, we've made some strong network connections out here. If someone tells me they have a Bigfoot sighting, I know 2 people I point them to because that's the way I am, So I'm excited that you guys are going to throw this in the efforts to make more of a cohesive community in the Carolinas.
Right. Oh, yeah. And I mean, it's good for us because we just don't know a lot of people in here. Like I said, we work with a ton of groups up in the New England area. And, always, as far as I was really outgoing and getting into some of these major places. I mean, like we did the Lizzie Borden house in Rhode Island, in Fall River, Massachusetts. And we've done like Houghton Mansion in Massachusetts. And we've done some really, big places that, I invited other teams to come, and I made it really, I had to rent out the Lizzie Borden house. It cost me to rent the whole house out for the night, but I invited these other teams and kind of like let them split it amongst all of us or whatever, so that it could make it affordable for everybody to be able to go and do this stuff. And we've given equipment away to other teams to help them out, and it's just we want to try to get along with everybody because I think it's going to take a full effort of everyone involved to be able to really push the envelope on finding out what's really out there,
Yeah, absolutely. And then one of the things you bring up is, is resources. Really. I mean, you look, some teams have more resources than other teams. And, with all of this stuff, money is always a concern because most people aren't making a living. I mean,
we're not all on the Travel Channel.
Trying to find Bigfoot. And I think being able to, sort of combine teams or tap into each other's resources, is something that would really be beneficial because we're in an area where there's not that many teams around here, and the ones that you find or you hear about, they really don't seem to have the resources to be able to kind of get out and do some of the stuff that I'm sure they'd like to do. Because the way we want it is for us in our podcast, and we also do investigations as well. We would love for somebody to call us on the phone and say, hey, can you come down to where you guys are? Can you come down to South Carolina because we're going to be checking out a house, or we're going to go do, I don't know. You know what I mean? And so, because if that happened, we're going to pack up all of our stuff when we're heading that way. In most places, most teams, they don't do that. There's really not like an invite out there, kind of hey, we're going to go to this particular area and do an investigation. Would you guys like to come? It's like, no, they keep it secret.
With this Paracon, I hope it's more, it's an open invite to everybody. You mentioned that you're going to have some teams from the Northeast showing up. Do you know which ones, or have they been announced yet?
Yeah, well, we got James Anito, who is a demonologist. He lives in New Hampshire, and I've been friends with him for a couple of years, and
wow,
he's going to come. And then Lucky Bel Camino, she's a psychic medium. She was the official Lizzie Borden house psychic, so she did like all the events there and did all the, she was in tune with the whole Lizzie Borden story, and she could reach out to different family members and everything. But she's recently relocated to New Orleans, but she's going to be coming over to this event too. We've been friends with her for quite a few years, and then we have Braxton and April Rowan, who they're actually from Florida. They're coming up, which April is a psychic medium as well. But we have quite a few coming. We also have Katie Stafford from the new show Ghost of Morgan City. I don't know if you guys have seen that show or not, but he's their tech guy. He invents all their equipment they use on the show and stuff. That show has been amazing. If you haven't seen it, you really should check it out because I'm thoroughly impressed with that show, how they go about doing it. Yeah, it's on the Travel Channel on Friday.
Cool.
Okay. And see, we kind of, our background is from the tech world. So whenever we see some of these shows and some of these investigations like on YouTube, we really appreciate seeing some of the technical stuff. So we'd probably really dig that show. Yeah. Now, as far as local participants, is there anyone that you can think of that comes to mind as far as what they might offer at Paracon or what they plan on doing during the conference?
Heather Alfonso, she's a psychic over towards near Myrtle Beach area, but she's actually going to do a psychic gallery reading where people come in and sit down or whatever, and she will start trying to contact with lost loved ones that are people that are in the room. So
cool.
that should be pretty cool. We have this numerous South Carolina teams that we have coming.
Yeah, because it seemed like it went from a couple people to a ton of people.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
Yeah, we keep adding them all.
We have the South Carolina Ghostbusters are coming.
Oh, okay. I've actually seen them.
Yeah. So they basically like a cosplay of the Ghostbusters. We have the South Carolina Paranormal team is coming. South Carolina Paranormal Research Investigations are going to be there. Stephen Teague, who's part of Reef Investigations, Reef Paranormal, which they're actually from they're from the Rhode Island area. Oh, Christopher Cook, who he's like a horror playwright, and he actually did playwright of Dracula with Bram Stoker's relative. He did a playwright with him of Dracula. But yeah, he's there, and I'm still meeting new people. There's a lady, and I forgive me, I can't remember how to pronounce her first name, but Miss Brown, and she's Native American, and she lives like a half hour from me, and we just started talking recently, and her son was on a show called The Ghost Inside My Child. He was like on the very first episode of it. So she's actually going to do a talk now about reincarnation, which I haven't announced her yet because I'm still waiting, some of her information and stuff. But so that would be a cool thing too. Is I don't think I've been to a Paracon, or anything like that where somebody talks about reincarnation. So I think that'll be an extra added little thing too. So
yeah.
We have some local food vendors that are going to be there with food trucks. Should be pretty good. We got quite a few people coming so far. I mean, I think there'll be 7 people doing lectures, and then we have a lecture of a paranormal panel, which this is part of my idea of trying to get people to work together. Is we've got a couple people from 4 or 5 teams that are all going to be up on this panel together. So probably about 8 to 10 people up on this panel, and people will be able to just do question and answers with them.
Yeah,
and so you can kind of see different ideas of how everybody thinks about stuff.
And it's an open panel to the people attending, so they'll be able to ask anything. Cool.
Yeah. We also have Davina Rush is a new one that we just added. She's a paranormal author, and she does like coloring books and stuff. So she'll be there too.
I'm actually interested in meeting her because I have a book in mind that I'm trying to write.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's along the lines of a kid's book, so I definitely want to meet her. So now we know that there's going to be a panel and that there's going to be a bunch of vendors. Is there anything that you think people should really be excited about? Anything specific or something you may not have promoted as much?
Oh, I actually forgot to mention is one that I'm really excited about seeing is the Bigfoot guys. They're out of Osceola, Florida.
Yeah.
And they're coming up, and I think they're going to be awesome to see them. And then one more person, Eric Mitchell's an alien contactee who lived in Maine for a short time, and I did a couple different experiments with him. He was an alien contactee, and I ended up shooting some documentaries on him. But he's moved to Arizona, I believe now, but he's flying in to do a talk on his experiences, and it's amazing his story, how it goes, and it just he never even believed in this stuff until like 2014 when it happened to him.
Oh, wow.
So you have somebody that was a total skeptic, didn't believe in any of this stuff, and now he's like a walking case of it.
Yeah.
And he can actually do things with his just sitting there. He can send out pulse waves through his mind, and I've been able to capture this on video with different techniques, and you can see the pulse as it's going, and he can give me a number, and he'll see the number 3 times if he does the number 3 pulsate, and he's a pretty amazing guy. His story is amazing. He's good friends with Travis Walton, and actually had Travis Walton and him at my house in Maine when we lived up there when I was doing that documentary on him. So
that's
that was
cool.
kind of cool meeting Travis.
Amazing. Yeah. I am big into UFOs, so it's always whenever anything in the paranormal or 14 world starts leaning towards UFOs, I get super excited. So,
And I mean, I've been in contact with different members of MUFON trying to get, a representative from MUFON to come to the event too, but that hasn't officially happened yet. So we're still working on that.
So, as if anyone from MUFON is listening, feel free to drop Toby and Tony Afterlife Paranormal a message and see if you can, make it to their Paracon event.
Yeah, and we have different vendors that are going to be selling, like necklaces and different metaphysical, tools and stones and crystals, and we've got a guy that's going to make the official Paracon T-shirts. He's going to be selling those there. We also, from now until September 1st, if you buy tickets anytime before September 1st, we have a ghost hunting kit that we're giving away. It's got a EMF detector in it, a voice recorder, and a spirit box SB7, and then the person will also win a Paracon T-shirt. So that's kind of our giveaway, trying to get early sales, ticket sales, which ticket sales so far have gone really good.
That's the other thing. People really want events like these, so I'm excited for everyone else who is interested in the paranormal. They want these events, so it's really cool that you're throwing one. So,
We were shocked we got in here. Like, in New England, it's very wide open. Everybody talks about, ghosts and paranormal and everything. We got down here, and it's kind of hush-hush.
And that was part of what I wanted to ask you guys during this interview is the fact that, every region, it has its own flavor or style or take with the paranormal. And how active is the paranormal or the interest in the paranormal in South Carolina? Do you think it's very strong, or is it just really hush-hush and you're hoping to just bring light to it out here?
It's funny. I think it is strong. I think there's a lot of people that really believe. I mean, we've had a lot of people talk to us about it, but it is hush-hush. I mean, we did an event at the Meriden Inn in Union, South Carolina, and that was our first event that we tried to do down here. And I basically rented out the entire inn, and we had people to buy tickets. We only sold 5 tickets for couples.
Yeah.
So it was only 10 people, and then her and I there. And when I was selling the tickets, I had probably 20 people message me wanting tickets after I'd already sold those 5, and we sold them quick. So I think there is a lot of people that's really interested in it. And what we do basically when I do all these events too is we try to do for different historical places where it's a fundraiser event for them. When we were in Maine, we were this place called the Old Red Church, where her and I actually got married. It's a super haunted location, and we were their biggest fundraiser every year for 2 or 3 years. So
nice.
We always try to give back and do it for fundraising for all these historical locations. Yeah, we're starting to really get excited about it now. We got less than 2 months now, so
it's really cool.
It seems like a lot of conferences around here are pretty divided. It's like it's cryptid, and that's it, or it's ghosts, and that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Or it's UFOs, and that's it.
Or it's like very niche, so it's one aspect of ghosts or one aspect of paranormal. And I would much rather attend Paracon, where it seems to be there's like this diverse array of different type of paranormal groups and perspectives. You just basically stated the reincarnation concept. I don't think we've been to one in this area that's actually approached that topic at all.
The only one that we've been to where somebody somebody was there that could have spoke about that was really not asked to speak about that. They wound up speaking about UFOs.
For a half hour.
Which is fine. It's just kind of one of those things where I'm excited to see sort of the mix, because the way we come at it from our podcast and the way we come at it just in general is we like all of it.
Yeah.
We like ghosts and reincarnation, or a lot of people will start calling that woo-woo. We like some of the woo-woo stuff, and we like, the paranormal aspect of things, and we also like the cryptid aspect of things, and just the general unknown, because it's all sort of related,
Oh yeah, and I mean, we've kind of always, obviously we do a lot with ghosts, spirits, that type of stuff. But I mean, I spend many nights just staring up at the sky and I try to see if I can see a UFO, you know. And you know, when I'm out in the woods, I'm always making jokes or looking around for Bigfoot, you know. So it's all beyond normal. So it's be paranormal.
Now, tickets are on sale right now. You said, and you're hoping for the people to get registered until what time for that contest?
If anybody that buys tickets between, you know, when they first went on sale, anytime before September 1st, are entered to win, you know, the ghost hunting kit.
Okay.
Get an EMF detector, it's got a voice recorder, and it's got a spirit box, and it also comes with the official Carolina Paracon T-shirt too. So.
And then how long are tickets on sale for?
I'm going to sell tickets right up till pretty much the day of the event.
Okay.
There probably won't be any tickets available at the door. And then we hope to build off of this, you know, with whatever, you know, we do this year, is we hope to build off it next year and get, you know, even, you know, bigger. I think people are just going to be surprised, like the fun and friendly atmosphere is going to be, you know.
Yeah, the Ghostbusters was a huge hit at the Parafest the last couple of years. You know, the kids just loved that. Even the adults did, you know. I mean, they all got their picture taken in front of it, the car, before they left. And, you know, it's just fun to have, you know, just your picture taken before you go, and just to remember it, post it on Facebook and all that.
Yeah, I'm going to get my picture taken. Especially the car.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But we wanted to open up to everybody. You know, anybody that's ever had questions about paranormal, or anybody that really likes, you know, paranormal TV shows or whatever. I don't want it to be just paranormal investigators coming. You know, I love having the general public come and people that are really curious about it, or even people that have questions about it, that they may even have something going on at their house or something they want to talk about. It's a great way to find somebody to come check it out, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, as far as we operate, we always do stuff. We do free investigations for people in their homes, you know, to help them out. And I'm pretty sure most groups do that, you know, and it's, people always ask me, well, how much do you charge to do that? And it's like, we don't charge anything. We just come out, we'll help you out, we'll see what we can find.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in the paranormal community that are like that, and it's a good opportunity for them to meet those people, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So tickets are on sale now. You can actually go to afterlifeparanormal.ticketleap.com, and they are $20 online. Be sure to check out the Facebook page. And did you guys have any specific place online or with social media that you'd like to recommend people check you out at?
Just the Carolina Paracon 2019. That's probably the best page to get all the updates about, you know, as far as the Paracon goes. And then we have, you know, Toby and Tony Afterlife Paranormal. That's our Facebook page, which Tony posts on that thing about 5 or 6 times a day on different paranormal stuff and everything that, you know, finds interesting, even, you know, funny stuff. And that's a great page to just follow and get a lot of, like, recent news or paranormal news, and then also get you chuckles on some of the memes that we post on there and everything. And then we have our Afterlife Paranormal tours and event page, which I'm going to update that a little bit better because we're kind of behind on that. But we post anytime we do public events, we post on there and everything. And then that's basically what we do is anytime that I do have to make money off of doing an event or whatever, then I always just dump it back into equipment and everything. I mean, we have an SLS cam and we have different spirit boxes, and I just recently built a spirit box out of a 1937 Philco radio.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we've got, I don't know, we have a ton of equipment and a ton of cameras, and yeah. So.
When we left New Mexico, we basically decided that we were going to go back to the East Coast and start filming some things and, you know, kind of do some documentary type stuff and just kind of investigate stuff that, kind of a long story short, when we were out in New Mexico, we would go to all these places with our camper van to basically camp in the desert because you can do that. And it's amazing. It's easy out there to find a place to sleep. And since everything was so spread out, it's like I didn't want to have to drive 300 miles to go see something for 3 hours and then drive back 300 miles, you know, because I'm too cheap for hotels, man. Plus, you know, so we drove and we had our dogs and stuff. So with our camper van, we were able to go out and go camp in these different places and stay overnight and that sort of thing. And what we didn't realize is that, from going to those different places and then talking to the people that grew up in New Mexico, they're like, I can't even believe you went there. That's like one of the most haunted places, or that's one of the most sacred places, or that's one of the, that place is full of skinwalkers, man. How could you stay there? And it's like, we would show up and we're like, man, this place feels kind of weird. We just had to, it was just sort of the thing. And then what we realized is that we were hitting all these hot spots, and it wasn't a matter of just, us just, finding places. We would look at a map and go, we're going there. It's like we just drawn to all these little spots.
Yeah.
And then we realized at the end, it's like,
that's funny because I remember we went on investigation one time, and it was the first time like my whole group was there or whatever, and we were gonna take some pictures in a cemetery, just like group pictures, and I'd already thought about this one cemetery, but one of the other guys was like, oh no, let's go to this other cemetery. Like, okay, so I'd never been to this one before. We get over there, and everybody just stand in front of this one huge grave or whatever, and we're all standing there taking pictures with this big grave, and then we look at it like, holy crap, that's the grave of the guy that we're going to the house that guy used to own.
Oh my gosh.
I can't remember the name of the place, but whatever it was, is Joe Smith Smoke Shop or whatever is the name of the place it was now. And the Joe Smith grave is where we're standing taking our pictures with. It was unbelievable. Like we were literally on our way there, and we didn't even know that.
See, that's the synchronous part of the whole thing. It's nuts, man.
Yeah.
Because once you start kind of opening a door and thinking about that kind of thing, or just being involved in it, it's these little things keep happening one after the other after the other.
That weird synchronicity theory, where if you have something in your mind and then something exterior in the universe happens, then it kind of puts more emphasis on what you have in your mind or whatever you plan on doing. So,
it's like, I guess we're going down the right path. Everything keeps sort of falling into place.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way it's been for us. It's been fun. We do our podcast and we go out and investigate. And when we met M&D Paranormal, we've started going to all these different places and seeing different things, and then we know cryptid people as well, and it's been a kind of a wild ride, especially around here, and that's the thing too. A lot of this stuff is just normal to people.
Yeah,
right.
They're used to hearing all this weird stuff in the woods, like don't if it doesn't kill you, don't worry about it, kind of thing. Whereas I grew up in Virginia Beach. We're on the waterfront, man. We're down at the beach on the ocean. You don't just go off in the woods and hear weird stuff and think that's okay.
And see, I was mostly suburban, so I would intentionally, when I lived in Virginia, I would intentionally go out hiking, but I wasn't really hiking at like really remote places like here in the Blue Ridge Mountains, And I'm like, now every night when I'm outside, just sitting on the patio, I'm like, what was that?
There's some weird stuff out here. Like our whole goal is to keep doing our podcast, which is growing, which is great, and then being able to video and record things, and we're doing conferences and we're talking to people, and so we're kind of getting out there a little bit. But we want it to be where somebody's doing an event or something, and they're like, oh man, we should call these guys and see if they want to show up, because we will.
Right?
Heck yeah, man. It's like if we know about it and we can drive it, we'll be there and we'll show up and bring our stuff because it's just fun, especially when, we've been, how do I put this? We've been involved with certain groups that it's just no point in.
Yeah.
It's like there's no reason to go. It's like, okay. Yeah. I'm not trying to be just, you know what I'm trying to say? It's like, I like groups and people that are really interested in it and are being serious and giving it the
sincerity.
Effort. Yeah, there you go. Sincerity. And then some groups are just not like that. It's like, I just can't.
Well, I just can't stand like the one who, there's a guy from Maine that I know, and like, he just does it because he thinks he's going to get on TV or something. I was like, dude, you're never going to get on TV. I don't know why you think you're famous or whatever, but
yeah. See, and that's kind of how we are. It's like,
yeah.
Okay.
Our goal is to network and share stories. I mean, we want to hear everybody's stories and we want to share everybody's story.
Yeah.
It's not all about getting on the TV, because at the end of the day, like a lot of us, there's a 9 to 5 and there's bills to pay. So
yeah.
Right, exactly.
But, yeah, the ulterior.
should have thought what I should have thought of when you guys were talking about what would be interesting there and stuff is we've got a few haunted objects or whatever that we're going to bring with us, and I'm sure other people do too. That's always fun and cool to check those out. So.
Oh yeah, that'd been really cool.
Oh, I wonder if I should.
One thing that I need you. I got this one thing I need you guys to check out when you're there to see if you guys have seen anything like it, because I've never. I found it down here on at like a flea market place,
mm-hmm.
and it's like an African woman possibly holding a baby, but it's this wooden sculpture. But the face is almost shaped like, and the head is like shaped like an alien. It's very strange. And I thought when I bought it, I didn't pay much for it. I didn't think much of it. And then I started Googling it, and I can't find anything on Google or anywhere that even looks remotely like this thing.
Can I ask? Is it wood, and is it black or blackish?
It's wood and blackish.
Does it have shells on it?
If you turn it upside down and look at the base of it, does the black fade away a little bit?
On the base, no. The black's pretty.
Okay.
Pretty black. Well, no. I mean, I guess it is. It's a little bit faded compared to the rest of the black. And it's not even cut even though either. So when it stands up, it almost tilts a little bit.
I already know what this thing looks like.
Have you seen something like that before?
Yeah. So a little bit about my fun background. My mom and my grandma were antique and junk dealers when I was growing up. Think like American Pickers before American Pickers got famous. And they would get really weird items. And I had seen some items like that in the past, and they were usually from estate sales. And what would happen is that may be from plantation times. Somebody could have carved it during plantation times or possibly brought it over, unless it's a reproduction, which it could be.
Or it could just be crazy weird and putting off weird vibes every time you feel it.
Yeah. So.
Right.
And some of that will depend, can really sort of be amplified by the wood.
Yep.
So,
it's kinda... The first night we brought it home, we had it downstairs, and like in the middle of the night, my wife was like, "Who touched my feet?" Like she jumped out. Remember, there's like something down by her feet or something. But I mean, since then we really haven't had a whole lot. My son had a candle that crashed the other day and stuff. But I'll take a picture and send it to you. I couldn't find anything online on it, so I was hoping I was going to bring it to see if somebody would be able to help me out with it to the Paracon just to see if they knew what the hell it was. Because when I looked at it, I thought it looked more modern.
Mm-hmm.
But then the more I looked at it, like the bottom of it, like I said, isn't even cut straight. And even like the eyes, one eye is bigger than the other eye. So you can tell it's not like, mass produced or anything. It's somebody, I think it's been carved. But, it's interesting.
Like Greg and I, we have a tendency to go thrift shopping because we love thrift shopping. And sometimes we bring home stuff and it acts up. And we'll have to set out in the yard for a couple of days, or we'll have to sprinkle salt on it. And sometimes that does or doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, it's really weird.
It's happened a couple of times. We brought things home where it's like, you sit back and you look at, we've had a terrible run of luck for 2 months. And then you start looking at it, like, okay.
Or a shadow person will walk by and you're outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm inside. Me and Pepper, the little dog, we both see it. So, yeah.
Yeah, we've had some weird things from bringing in weird things. And
right.
Where we lived in New Mexico was really transitory. So
when we've gone to do investigations before, we've brought stuff home with us a few times too.
Oh
That's kind of cool stories of that. I'll tell you sometime.
See, that's the good stuff.
Yeah,
that's the kind of stuff. That thing is freaking crazy looking, man.
Did you see it?
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
I just sent you the picture. Does that like something you've seen before or no?
No. That for me, that's not. I mean, it's kind of close to what I was thinking of, but that's pretty serious business.
Yeah, the ones that I was thinking of from like plantation era, especially in Georgia and South Carolina, the face was way skinnier. So these are more. I want to say these are actually more from Africa. Yeah. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. I'll do some research on this one, but I have seen one of these before. Just, it's been a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I pointed it out to her. We were at the flea market or something, and she's like, "Yeah, it's kind of cool. You know, she kind of wanted it." And I said, "All right." So I asked them how much they wanted for it or whatever, and I think he said $30. I ended up getting it for $15. I figured, well, I offered him 15. He said, "Sure."
Yeah.
He said it was a fertility statue. You see, I was holding like a baby, and so he thought it was a fertility statue. He's like, "Be careful, she's gonna get pregnant."
That's actually, if the baby's being held closer to the breasts, then yes, it would be a fertility symbol. The fact that it's kind of holding the baby away from its arms is why, with its arms, it's kind of holding it away. That's why I want to do research right now. So.
We have to get close up of the baby too. The baby looks like freaking ET. Crazy.
That thing is not at all creepy looking.
You liar.
We got to look because that thing looks, just a little off.
I'll do some research. I'll try.
Yeah, I was expecting when I get this thing, I was expecting to see 15 of them on Google or whatever, and I couldn't find any. I mean, I saw stuff a little bit similar, but nothing like that.
Yeah. That's a little weird, man.
But if you guys can check that thing out, if you find anybody that knows anything about that, it'd be awesome.
Yeah,
maybe somebody will give me $10 for it.
They might be like, "Oh yeah, hey, we know you don't want it anymore. How about $4,000?" You'd be like, "I couldn't let it go for less than $8,000." You know,
right.
But yeah,
that's probably somebody will offer me $10 for
it. Yeah. I wouldn't take it. I would. That thing is, it's unusual, man. That's what makes it cool, but also kind of creepy at the same time. Yeah.
Instead of she ends up pregnant, giving it away.
Yeah, set it on fire. No, I mean, if we come down there and we talk to you guys and we do a face-to-face kind of like phone, or not, not on the phone, like camera sort of setup, we sit around chit-chat interview, I don't want that thing anywhere near us.
Okay.
Especially, because what if what if it's not a fertility thing? What if it's making all your hair fall out, or, one of your arms get longer than the other or something kind of thing?
I don't have that problem.
Well, that's about all I got going for me, man. I still got a little bit of hair. I'm holding on to it. It's not on my back yet. That's a thing, I guess.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. We really appreciate it. It was a fun time.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, it was fun talking to you guys. Let's keep getting Paracon out there and get Afterlife Paranormal out there, so we can kind of get that network going. So it'll be good.
Okay, cool. Well, I do want to thank you guys for giving us a call today, and we hope to actually touch base with you guys soon, right? Probably before the event, hopefully.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get you guys a little bit, get a little more info, see if anything's new or anything's different with the conference, and just catch up. Okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, it's been fun. Look forward to seeing you again.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
And we're back. So thank you very much. It was good to talk to Toby and Tony from Carolina Paracon. It's going to be a good time.
Paranormal.
Afterlife Paranormal. And October 5th is the Carolina Paracon. If you'd like to check that out, it's going to be at Saluda Shoals Park. It's in Columbia, South Carolina. And you can actually go on Facebook and check out the event page. And so if you look for Carolina Paracon, you'll find it. There'll be some interesting speakers there. If you buy your tickets early, you're going to get entered into a contest to win a ghost hunting kit. So that's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so, but either way, October 5th is going to be nice. Weather's going to be nice. It's going to be start to get, that autumn sort of chill in the air. So you won't be running around sweating like a pig. It's going to be fantastic. So there you go. Buy your tickets before September 1st. So you get entered in to get the ghost hunting kit. And it should be pretty exciting. We're going to be there as well, along with, it's like 10 other guest speakers. There's a bunch.
Yeah.
And 25 vendors. And there's going to be a paranormal Q&A panel. Basically everything you heard in the interview.
Yeah. And be sure to actually like the Facebook event page for this, so that you can get all the updates as far as new speakers, any changes to the thing. I don't think that changes, but any cool stuff that's going to happen.
Yeah, because there's still enough time to add a bunch of stuff, so it should be pretty good.
Yeah,
it's going to be family friendly. It's going to be a good time. We're looking forward to it. We're going to pop on down there and kind of check it out. So it'll be good. So there you go. You have until October 5th to get your tickets. So get them beforehand.
Yeah, and hopefully
it's like voting. Vote early, vote often, right?
Hopefully we can stop by and say hi to Toby and Tony from Afterlife Paranormal again.
Yes.
And just check in with them as far as what's going on with the Paracon soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a good time. So, yeah, there you go. So anyway, back with the podcast, we have one last thing to talk about before we kind of wrap the podcast up. And this is, okay, as you guys know, or don't know if it's your first time listening to the podcast, we have a phone number that you can call. That phone number is 575-208-4025.
Yeah.
And you can leave us a message if you'd like to share a story or maybe you've heard something, that kind of thing, some breaking news type stuff. But you can also contact us through all of our other social means and leave us a message. Maybe you have a little story. So when we have these stories and they do pop up, we put them in the podcast, we call them user messages.
It's like you're alluding like it's going to have some grandiose title.
Yeah, I know, but it doesn't. We're calling it user messages.
This is the segment so aptly named.
Yes.
User messages.
Because people are like all excited, like, what? So, yeah, that's like, oh, man, how can we find your Facebook group? Well, it's called CreepGeeks Facebook group, right? It's kind of the same thing. So one of your friends from the reservation shared a very spooky story about little people. And this is funny because it's not funny, but I mean, it's funny to us because it's in South Dakota. And you don't really hear too much, or at least I haven't really heard too much about little people in South Dakota.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of isolated to more like the Cherokee and like the East Coast as far as myths of the little people, which from...
Well, I mean, we know that the little people myth is in basically all the tribes, but it just the reports are not as prevalent, I guess.
So from it, like an anthropological standpoint, I always thought maybe some of those myths were influenced by settlers on the East Coast. But no.
Yeah, you would think so, with all the influence coming over from Europe with Fey folk and things like that.
So it was a lot of like the Cherokee or the Blackfeet, and legends of these little people. I had no idea. It's nationwide. And like Greg was saying, this is primarily going to be about South Dakota, North and South Dakota. And this friend of mine, we've just been talking a lot because this has kind of been an interest for her. She heard one or two stories from her family members, and now she's got like everybody talking to her about this.
Yes.
Which is really cool. And this story is actually a really recent story, and I've omitted some names because I want to respect everybody's privacy, and I don't want to out anybody.
Yes. So that's something to be aware of. If anything that's said to us in confidence remains in confidence, and if you'd like to share something but remain anonymous, we will certainly absolutely respect that.
Yeah.
So if you don't tell us, then we'll tell on you. But no, I mean, that's not the goal. The goal is that if you'd like to share something, you can rest assured that privacy is absolutely considered and is of utmost importance.
Well, that and I don't want to get this cousin in trouble because I'm.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I wouldn't give any names anyway.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, so the story does start off with my cousin told me a story the other night about a direct experience with the little people that happened to him. Apparently, my cousin was at a house party one night, and the cops showed up. Now, it's illegal to drink on this reservation that he was on, so a few of the partygoers, including my cousin, took off in every direction so the cops wouldn't catch them.
Yes.
Very smart.
That's a smart tactic.
Yeah. If we all run our separate ways,
that's right.
They can't get us all.
Yes.
So my cousin ran and hid by the creek waiting for the cops to leave. He said while he was down there, 3 little men came out from the brush and grabbed his legs. They were trying to pull him into the water. He kicked and he fought them off, and then he tried to run back towards the party house, but the cops were still there. So he ran all the way back home and didn't look back. Now, growing up, when her and her cousins and everybody, when they would swim in the nearby river, they would always like float to a certain bend in the river, and then they'd get out, walk back up, and walk back to where they started from. And when she asked why do we always just float, here to here, and then we get back and we go all the way back? Why can't we just float the whole length of the river? And all the adults, not just her relatives, would point to the bend and say, the little people live past the bend. If you float past the bend, you'll never come back because the little people are going to catch you. Now, there's going to be a couple more stories to come because she's been talking to her friends and family across the country and sharing stories about little people. It seems like no matter the tribe or region, all these different res have different stories of little people, but they all have a couple things in common. They're near water.
Mm-hmm.
They're very mischievous and like kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
A lot of them are trying to grab people and either bring them into the water or lure them into the water. They're also little thieves too. So, and she told me a couple other details. I mean, like these little people stories, it's not just, you can't go past a certain bend in the water. It's don't do this, don't do that, be careful of this.
Yeah.
And she's had a personal experience with these little people as well.
What's her personal experience?
Well,
or is that for next time?
It is kind of for next time.
All right, so if it's for next time, we'll leave it for next time. See, it's kind of funny because we hear about the little people, and we're on the East Coast. And I was just thinking back to Mysterious Universe, where there was a person, and I think they were in the Southwest, and they were talking about little people, and the little people were basically, they looked just like you and I, except they were smaller. I mean, they were literally like, at the most maybe a foot tall, but proportions for being a foot tall, not like a dwarf or a gnome or something crazy like that, but just an actual little person. Yeah. And they were very particular about things, and they would get very angry about things, and you couldn't see them necessarily. That was the thing too. It's like you could see them if they wanted you to see them, but if they didn't, then you wouldn't see them at all. It was kind of a crazy thing.
And see, that's I'll go into that a little bit. That seems to be a little bit of the difference between, because these are mostly people in the Northwest.
Yeah.
And their descriptions are more along the lines of like water babies.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or like in her cousin's case, like little gnomes, but vicious little gnomes.
Okay, so trolls, gnomes, goblins.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, with Hellier being popular, which is supposed to be another season coming out pretty soon for that, and they like the Kentucky goblin thing, those are typically way more, mischievous, vicious, more trickster, more dangerous.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So. Like these water baby type ones, there's actually a name for them, and I'm trying to find that real quick for you guys. It's so weird because it sounds really gaghanas. Yeah, which translates literally into water babies, and those are actually found near Klamath, Oregon.
Okay, that's
the common name for them out there, and that's by the Hunka people, I believe. A lot of this is going to be from the Sioux and Lakota, as well as a couple of my Navajo friends have actually written in too. And it's weird how these stories are all correlating.
Yeah, so the water babies are mysterious and dangerous water spirits from the folklore of the California and other Western Native American tribes. In many traditions, the cry of a water baby is an omen of death. That's not good. Yeah.
And do not, especially when traveling alone, get lured to the edge of the water or behind the waterfall.
Yes.
And that was one of the things we were going to talk about. So, like her friend that's near Klamath, Oregon, if you're traveling alone and you start to hear that weird luring, the baby cry type stuff, it may not be Bigfoot like some of us are thinking, the baby cry. It might actually be one of these water babies or little people.
Because water babies can take the form of beautiful human infants, although in some tribes they have fishtails. Yeah. Like mermaids. Or appear as reptilian beings that merely make the cries resembling human babies. In many tribal traditions, the cry of a water baby is an omen of death. And in others, responding to a water baby's crying by picking it up results in catastrophe.
Yeah. And those reptilian beings mentioned in what you're reading, they're small, like gnomes or goblins. Yeah. So, and they're wiry and they're kind of scary.
Well, I mean, all of it's kind of scary.
And the fact that her cousin, he was at a house party, but he really hadn't gotten there in time for all the major drinking to happen. Yeah. So, I mean, even if that boy had like 2 sips of beer, that's not enough to imagine this experience. Yeah. And it correlates with something that happened to her earlier in life that was just truly frightening, and we'll talk about that on an upcoming episode.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, very nice. I think at this point we're going to go ahead and take a second to wrap up the podcast. We do very much appreciate you listening to the podcast. And Yeah, so is there anything else that you'd like to say?
Well, on top of Carolina Paracon, which is upcoming, what we're doing immediately in the near future is going to be the Cherokee Legends Comic-Con, and that's going to be in Cherokee, North Carolina. We've put a link in the show notes for that. And then not long after that, in September, we're going to be at the Outer Realms Festival.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so our show notes have
We have links to everything in our show notes, as we do.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about anything that we're going to, or hey, if you know of an event we can attend, shoot us an email, contact@creepgeeks.com, or reach out to us on any of our social media platforms.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Very, very nice. So we do take great pride in knowing that you've been listening to the podcast. You should feel good about that. Give yourself a little pat on the back. Yeah, with your webbed hand.
Would you stop?
Oh, water baby like mermaids with webbed hands and stuff. Anyway, no, we do appreciate you taking the time to listen. It's been fun for us. We'd also like to thank Toby and Tony from Afterlife Paranormal for doing us a favor and letting us have a little bit of an interview and explain a little bit about Comic-Con, Carolina Paracon. So, I'm just not cool enough, man, for the cons, because that's what all the kids call them, the cons. So you're going to the cons. So, it's good. Anyway, you good?
Yes.
All right. Anyway, well, hey, you've been listening to the CreepGeeks Podcast. This is episode number 140. See you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We can feel the floor underneath our feet. Fire shots through my chest.